Welcome to the Builders Podcast, episode 91, Ozan Bilgen. His story, solving a big problem with his AI machine learning solution, the future of AI. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable from the trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Ozan Bilgen. Did I get it close? I've been challenged by this. I've practiced this like 20 times before. We'll let you say it. How do we pronounce your name?
Ozan Bilgen.
Okay, got it. What he said. So Ozan is the founder and CEO of Base64.ai, one of the fastest growing artificial intelligence startups in New York. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Matt.
So today we're going to talk about kind of his entrepreneurial journey, what his story is, what his journey looks like, and then we'll get into a little bit, into probably some tech conversation. We'll talk a little bit about AI and some of that fun stuff today. I'm looking forward to it as a tech guy. So I'm going to throw it to you, Ozan, and to let you tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started, I guess in business, but you can go as far back, what's influenced you, where you're from, and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, yeah. I'm a software engineer. I have bachelor's and master's in computer sciences. Originally from Turkey, moved to the States 16 years ago. I got a job offer from Microsoft Windows Server team. Now it became Azure later. When I was 25, so I jumped on the boat. I took the chances, and was one of the best decisions I ever made. I worked there about 5 years. It was amazing. It was just like I dreamed of. And after 5 years, I jumped on the entrepreneurship program. So worked on a startup, and later I worked at Netflix, PayPal, Uber, and Palantir. In the first three, I built their payment systems and ran their vehicle solutions team as an area architect. So that's actually where I came up with them, where I faced the difficulties that I'm trying to solve right now, which is automating document processing. So the short story is, Uber, we have drivers and riders, right? So with that, we want to onboard them as fast as possible. With drivers, it's a lot more complicated than riders because Uber wants to do background checks. Uber wants to make sure that they have a valid driver license. In fact, they have maybe a car and insurance for that car. So back in the time, there was no good AI and no good solutions. So the documents were basically transcribed manually. That means somebody has to take a look at it and type whatever is on that driver license. So these documents were for actually internationally because it's very expensive to do it in the US, and it was taking all the way to 8 hours to maybe days when there's a lot of backlog. What we were also seeing a lot is people were uploading incorrect documents. So they were uploading, for instance, an ID instead of a driver license or an expired one, or they were uploading title instead of registration. So people make mistakes, but then what happens is obviously Uber cannot accept them. So we were trying to contact them back, saying hey, please come back and do this. As it turns out, people don't always walk around with their driver license, maybe, but not with their vehicle registration. So they forget the text message. Maybe they already got a job. Maybe they're uploaded their documents to another competitor, and that time it worked out. They didn't this time use the flash phone and it was readable. And all those things was causing basically a final drop out, right? So that was a big thing. It was very frustrating to watch, and there was no real solutions for that. In time, I became the technical lead for Uber's leasing company, Exchange Leasing. We had about like 100,000 cars in the US, and over there we also had to check the leasing contracts and the vehicle titles and match many more things for each driver, which takes a lot more time. We ended up having 300 people in Phoenix, Arizona. They're all college grads from ASU and so forth, and they finished finance degree departments. It's a very tough school, but still, day in and out, they were going through documents. So I still remember very vividly the first time I saw that office. It was like, rows of young people in front of computers and like, backlog of files. They were like going through this. It was pretty insane to see that. And it was a pretty difficult job. On the other side, it by the nature of the job, you can't actually get really better on that. So you can only make mistakes if you get tired and so forth. So there's nothing more than like 100%, there. So that was also like another difficulty with that. So that was very interesting to witness. So in my post-Uber life, looking for a difficult project to tackle, I came across this one and ended up, after a few tries, in Base64 AI, and basically built this company from ground up to focus on that problem, to build an AI that can read and understand all types of documents. And the reason why we heavily focus on all types of documents instead of invoices or passports and so forth. Rarely a company needs just one type of document. What they're looking for is a vendor that can support them for anything they need. And also, this is an evolving domain, and it's hard to find a vendor. And when you find a vendor, you want to continue with them. You don't want to look for another vendor for every document type and so forth. So we are, kind of elevating that problem. We are doing everything about document processing, from classifying the documents, extracting a PDF into multiple pages, telling what type of document they're on each page are, extracting its data, doing a lot of checks against fraud, image qualities. And now actually we are about to announce, maybe I can take a quick sneak peek here, we're going to add human in the loop. So we will basically take over entire document processing departments and basically give it as a SaaS service. And this is going to be, we believe, much better than what any company can afford, because if nothing, there's a seasonality of the documents, right? So, benefits documents, they usually come to your way November and December, but travel documents, they come in the summer. So if you hire for, the peak volume, then you have a lot of free hands each year, and you're paying for it, right? So it's a cost expense, and, these people are going to be bored. If you don't do that, if you hire for the low season, then you're not going to meet the SLAs in the peak season. But in our ways, we can actually scale up and down, powered by a very powerful and accurate AI and globally distributed reviewers for that.
That sounds awesome, because instead of them having to worry about hiring and firing and or laying people off or doing this and that, they have the software doing it, just like a server that's cloud, and they can scale up and auto scale up and down, depending on the type of year or your, promotions or whatever going on. That sounds brilliant. I'm going to pause you there. I want to kind of loop back a little bit into your past a little bit, because I'm curious. I'm always curious about people's stories, and I'm curious about. Well, number one, I wanted to just comment on the fact that you're typical of a lot of people that do go into business for themselves, entrepreneurs that launch into something new. And some people are really good at that. Like for me, it's like I almost I really admire that, because it's like it's a real talent to be able to identify problems. And it's oftentimes where you're working, where the companies you work in, you see like, gosh, I feel like that could be improved on. And for some reason, your attraction was to the document processing. You're like, why are they doing it this way? Why could computers, could AI, could machine learning or whatever, could that solve this problem? And you go out and you start a company around that, which is brilliant. What was that leap though? You were working for other people? What was the entrepreneurial leap though? Why did you decide that I should go out and start my own company rather than? I mean, I suppose no one else was doing that in a domain, maybe the way you were thinking of it, but what was that thought process?
Sure. So the thing here is everybody sees problems very easily, right? It's harder to find the solutions for it, obviously, but it's a good thing. I mean, seeing the problem is like the first step. The second thing is Uber had very, very talented engineers and product managers and had a lot of money in the bank too. But it's just it wasn't the focus. And maybe they did the right thing for themselves. To one way or others, they solved it with manual processing. Maybe it wasn't perfect, but, kept the ball rolling. Uber was still, is still, I think, the fastest growing startup in the world. It was Google before Uber, right? So they become, a worldwide provider for transportation and logistics services. So, if they were to maybe focus on this and not build the other feature, maybe they wouldn't be there. So that was the right thing for them, but it's not necessarily the ultimately the right solution. So over the time, they will, they should be doing that. Yet again, there was no solution for it, and that's also understandable. My experience, those major tech companies showed me where they are good at and where they are not that good at. Obviously, as the company grows, it becomes very difficult to address every concerns, and pretty much every company needs vendors for it.
That's right. Yeah.
But that's an opportunity there.
That's right.
So we hired 300 people. It's very hard to hire them, manage them, give them opportunities, keep them excited, motivated, deal with all kinds of within an office life. Why can't you just use the SaaS model? If there is a vendor that is trustworthy, reliable, and scalable, that's what we want to be for the world.
Oh, yeah. No, that, and it makes sense. Like large companies and stuff, especially the bigger they get, they're focused on the almighty dollar, and they don't see this part of they're focused on putting all their energy in growth or whatever they're thinking is going to have the most impact. And this over here, somebody else, they can just deal with it. But it's really, it's a lot of people see problems. Certainly we all see problems in the universe, but not all of us think, how can I solve that problem? But you have, obviously you're coming into this with, you have the background, the experience in tech, and your wheels were turning more than anyone's that didn't have that experience would turn. Be like, I like this idea of a challenge that I could go out there and make a difference. Not only making a difference, but maybe some money along the way too, hopefully. But yes,
money in the entrepreneur life, I think it's one of the most critical aspects of being an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, we can't just do everything ourselves. We need people. Even though I'm coming from software engineering background, I still need software engineers to build things. There are areas that they know better, or at least I need people to work on things so I can focus on other things. And that all happens with money. So that's why we have this entire startup ecosystem around us. The point here is, I think we are more passionate about the problems we have seen firsthand. Maybe you have a garden. I don't. I live in an apartment, and then there are a lot of opportunities, probably about gardening. I may not feel about it, but this problem I saw it, and when I actually took it as a business, I realized literally every company has that problem. So who doesn't process documents? We all put people behind that, and then every company has to solve it themselves. And that was the kind of challenge I was looking for. Can I find a very big problem, and if I solve it, there should be some merits coming from me back. And that was one of the problems.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and you definitely need You definitely need the money because, like you said, you can't do everything yourself. You need specialists over time or to grow a team. And I'm the same way in the web design development arena. I would love to do everything. Well, no, I wouldn't love to do everything myself. But you have the value in a certain area, but you also need those other minds that can specialize in certain technologies or programming languages or whatever. And yeah, it's important. So did you get funding, or is this something you bootstrapped yourself, saved some money, and went at it, or how did that go?
Yeah, I saved a lot of money thanks to all the great companies I worked at. I think I was born in the right
Yeah, you
time for
didn't
that.
probably did pretty well. Yeah,
Um, but
well, that's good.
there's more than money. Like, money is just one thing. I think I tried myself to see, like, find what I'm really looking for. I tried to retire, to be honest, and I couldn't. I just was just like, the first month or so was great, not gonna lie. But after a while, I was like, what am I doing here? What's my purpose in
Yeah,
life? What, exciting for me? What am I trying to achieve? Maybe, um, maybe this, maybe that. But I just like realize we all need a purpose to focus on. And I found my peace in document processing because that was a problem I saw. The other thing
yeah,
is like, we need a team. So a team is not just like, take some of the work and do it for me. It's people. It's different perspective. It's collaboration. It's motivation. It's, doing something with a group is a different feeling. They're saying if you want to
yeah,
go go it by yourself, if you want to go further, go with the team. And we want to take it to further. We want to go as much as document processing can go. And we are a very inventive team. We are uh, basically invented a lot of concepts in this world. The some of which the incumbent big companies in the document area they have not implemented. Even though we are actually pretty public, so anyone can come to our demo on our website and try it and see it. So we're not even hiding what we are doing. We're pretty open about it. And if anybody wants to challenge
hmm
on some similar thing, they're more than welcome. So we're not hiding how we are doing either. We want innovation in this area. We want to solve this problem, and we're gonna be, we believe, like a very big player in the coming years. That's our goal, at least
yeah.
for 25 million top three companies in that world. So I self-funded it. We start gaining, making money. We launched in January 2021. After when the pandemic is just a little, over, and we become commercially successful in Q3 2021. Like in 2 quarters, we had enterprise deals, and that's
Nice.
when I was like ready for fundraising for a pre-seed round, friends and family, because there's one thing like you try something at home and it doesn't work out. That's fine. Like that, entrepreneurs, innovators, they don't shame failure. It's something a project can fail in multiple ways. You may not achieve it technically. It may not be commercial right thing. You may just lose your patient. Life may change, etc. Those are all good. So we're not afraid of failures by our nature. And if you're too afraid of it,
hmm
you're not gonna succeed in anything, right? And but when I saw the light, and I was like, okay, that is as good as I think it can be. So what I need is like now more developers and more salespeople, and a better marketer than I am, and so forth. We started the fundraising, and with that funds, we raised about like we didn't even raise too much. We raised $320,000, I guess. But that was enough for us to curve it, to bring it like to quarter million era, and that was like when we actually start seeing much more growth, and by the next quarter we tripled it and went for our seed round. And thankfully, I'm so lucky. Like I met with right VCs. I met hundreds of VCs.
Good.
It's a very painful
Yeah,
process, but like
yeah.
finally I met the right ones, and they were like supporting. So Long Journey Ventures and Data Community Fund led the round for us, and we raised like in total of like 1.8. And for me, that
Wow.
was like good enough for us to go to the next gear. So we could have like continued on what we were doing, and we were profitable actually at that time, and called it a day,
hmm
right? So it's a good side hustle. but I really wanted to make it like, the next big thing in the world. And I think like, the opportunities there, I think the timing was perfect. So I wanted to like, take it to the next gear. So that's, why we raised. And that, was the right choice, I think, because when you have, to be honest, like when you have money in the bank account, you make bigger and bolder decisions. And that's what a
Right.
startup needs. They need big and bold minds.
Very interesting. Yeah. So, first it seemed like when you in the beginning you needed that kind of proof of concept or whatever you want to call that, like this, and then you saw it actually close some deals. You're like, this is actually working. People actually need this. You're able to sell it. Now you just go out and you get that funding to scale things up and put people in the right positions to do better marketing, to do, bring in greater minds to work as a team and take it from there. That's really cool, actually. Yeah. So, um, so now today you're actually, when I first talked to you, you were in Vegas, you were doing stuff in Vegas. How are you, um, before we get into, I want to talk a little bit about the technology and stuff too, maybe, um, but in terms of the business, what are you, focused most on? Are you going to like events, or how are you attracting business out of curiosity?
Yeah, I think like, for us, like, we really try everything and to see what sticks. And in terms of marketing,
Yeah.
obviously, we have people who spend a lot of time in marketing, but we are very open-minded. That's what I'm trying to say. So there are certain things that worked out for us. There are certain, things that didn't work out for us, and that, you know, there can be a lot of reasons. But we
Mm-hmm.
saw really good inbounds when we go to events and conferences, and we do email marketing, we do newsletter marketing, we do phone calls, we have a partner channel. Uh, we try like many different avenues to not basically there's a FOMO in sales, in startup sales.
Yeah.
So we want to like try out and not let it go. But events, they're special in this case. People like to see people. I guess we missed each other because of this long two
Yeah. Right.
years.
Especially after the
Uh,
last few years. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So now, like when you go in front of people and like shake their hands when they realize like hey, you are a hustler. You come all the way from New York to Vegas for a conference to meet them and like show them what you did, and they see the passion in you. I think that changes something. So I recommend everybody to go to the conference if they cannot afford a booth. That's fine. You can actually achieve a lot of things by just walking around and introducing yourself. And those events those conferences have events. Like opening reception,
Yeah.
closing reception, etc. Uh, that's like also it's also a very good opportunity for us to see like the market and who is going there. So in most of those events we go
Mm.
there, it was us and maybe one or two competitors. But if you Google it, you will find hundreds of them. And that's what we see some like it looks like very crowded. Well, it's not. It's when we go there, we don't see any of them. They're not there. And that's what really
Right.
matters. So can you go to the field? It's like can you walk the walk too? That's what conferences means to us. So we had like two good conferences. One is InsurTech. This is the largest insurance conference in the world. There was 3 days, and the next week there was UiPath's Forward Conference. It's a partners conference basically, and we are UiPath's advanced technology partner in document understanding. Um, so yeah, it was really good to meet customers and partners, and comparison and see like where things are and where we can fit in, how we can make the impact. Actually.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's even in this day and age now where everyone's on Zoom or trying to just meet people like this or whatever, that in person is special, and that's in a lot of different contexts. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean Zoom and
for
phones and
sure.
stuff like in our personal lives, it's fills a gap. It's very useful, obviously. Not gonna lie, but it's not like meeting in person and having a dinner together and so forth.
Right.
That's a
Oh,
completely different
definitely.
thing.
Definitely. Yeah, I remember I had a meeting with somebody that's international from India. Actually, he came. He was going through. He stopped in Chicago just so we could meet because we
Yeah.
partner on some stuff. And to go down there and meet him actually in person was just it was a game changer in terms of our relationship. We had a good relationship already, but it was like that just there's just something about that human interaction and be able to shake somebody's hands and have lunch with them, and it really deepens it a lot. So being able to do that at conferences or events and actually people get to interact with you and see you in the real world, it's got to be a good foundation for future partnerships or business or whatever. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the technology itself, because I'm curious about your thoughts now. How now I do, even though I'm a web developer and I don't work in. Maybe I touch like SaaS products and stuff that have AI built into it. Content generators, this and that, and the other thing. But I don't deal, actually coding, and I'm not in the field of machine learning or anything like that. So forgive me, my my lack of knowledge in this area. But I do watch a lot of YouTube, and I love AI. I love machine learning. I love where that's all going, and I know it's going to have a huge impact on our future. It already is, and what. In that realm, like maybe specifically in your industry or just in general, like where do you think we are with AI in terms of what you're doing and how well it's working? Do you have a long ways to go? Is it really good right now, or is it another 5 years before things are it'll just understand everything that you feed into it, or are there still errors? Is there, what's the landscape look like in terms of AI, machine learning and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I also been like around this tech. I think I started in late '90s when I was in college as like a web developer. So it was Web 2.0, was Neo-ish, writing to database
Yeah.
to the user. So that's how I did, and then I saw got myself into Linux server development, kernel drivers, the Windows server, like cloud was new, and mobile. Um, Payments and so on. Like I did a lot of things in different areas. That kind of gave me a
Mm-hmm.
perspective. But I'm not seeing the advancements in the AI in any other field. So every 10 years, I think new things pop up. Uh, Late '90s when I started development, it was web development, right? So if you're a web developer, you were like good for life. Now in 2010, it was mobile
Yeah.
development. So everybody was trying to do something like put in the app store. You could make actually a lot of money. I did myself. In 2020s, it's now machine learning. So if you see
Yeah.
that's what attracts the smartest kids, and that's where you see the growth. So wherever talent goes, that's where you're gonna experience the growth as well. Um, this is why I'm very hopeful, how things are gonna evolve. Is it gonna be as people fear? I don't want to play on into fears. I think we will basically have always the control for the next at least 5-10 years about how things are going. There's actually a funny meme about this. It says people are afraid of Terminator, and my machine learning looks at the cat and says it's a dog. Right? If you find this,
Yeah.
send it out to you if you haven't seen this. That's the stage of things here. So what's working for
Yeah.
it is price talent is the GPUs. So now actually we have GPUs that are so powerful that perhaps supercomputers could do a decade or two ago, and that's a big game changer. Now the computing power for
Mm.
machine learning, the needs are immense. Second thing is
Really important. Yeah. Yeah.
there are new types of neural networks that are coming out that are better in certain things. So there are neural networks that that are good for recognizing characters. There are neural networks that are good for cleaning up a signature, and those are two different things, right? So they're basically removing the lines or letters under a signature. That we use that one. We use OCR, obviously, like converting image to character. We use different neural networks to find the layout information in the documents, like detecting tables and so forth. There are different things that are coming up in the academic world and also in the professional world that helps us to go faster. So we don't have to reinvent everything ourselves from the scratch. So we can look at what others are doing and learn from them and contribute back to the community. There are better libraries like PyTorch, TensorFlow, and so forth. So those are taking over some of the workload from us. So we don't need to build that. There's this is machine learning infrastructure is an entirely new domain that did not maybe existed like in 2000s, right? So those are their products that we can readily pick up and use. So this is going to basically accelerate the curve on it. In essence, like I really like machine learning because like it's like it's mimicking us, right? It's mimicking humans. So the more you teach us, if you have better teachers, if you have good data, on the other side, if you read a lot of books, maybe that's what corresponds to us. You become a higher intellect. So that's what is very similar with machine learning as well. The fact that it learns and makes mistakes, it's kind of like it reminds me very basically who we are, how our brains work. That's basically that's why it's called neural networks, right? And that's kind of like a fascinating thing. So we are building a human pretty much here. But in our particular world, we are building an office worker. Basically, that's what's going to end up being. So you will give them office tasks, and they will do it. Whether it's reading a document, processing an invoice, right, accepting someone, like doing facial recognition to making sure their ID is the same one, making sure their signature is the one that you are in hand. So those are the things we can do today. We are able to do that. So it's hard to tell, where we're going to end up in 5 to 10 years in this field, but you will probably be very easily, eventually, hire AI robots to do this job, and they're gonna be not just gonna be these today AI robots, like you have to still program it a lot. It's gonna come in ready. So, for instance, you want to start a company, right? So how many marketing people do you want? How many accountant do you want? You can basically just you can shop in Amazon, create server, AWS, create service. You will be
spin up.
Yeah, that is where we are going. So it's it's not gonna be that far away in the future. So by the end of the decade, we're gonna see it. That is going to be very revolutionary for our lives.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, the impact it's going to have, I think that's what a lot of people are worried about. People losing jobs and taking over a lot of jobs. And I find it all this really, really fascinating. Number one, I think the idea that as what's
Sorry,
that?
Your voice came a little late, so I didn't mean to cut you off, please.
Okay, yeah, I think we got a little bit of a delay for some reason. Hopefully that cleans up post. But no, so I think it's fascinating to hear that the ecosystem is kind of growing and you're able to leverage other people's work in your own work, and you're not reinventing the wheel. And it's more and more, it's like in general web development, right? We're always using other people's libraries, other people's work to speed up what we're doing, what we're developing and doing. One of the things that is really fascinating with me with machine learning is the fact that you don't have, as a programmer or as somebody that's working with it, you don't actually know what it's doing to learn. Do you have these neural networks or whatever you have? I know I've seen a few videos about this, but it's fascinating that you actually have very little understanding of actually how it's learning or how it actually maps all that in its little network, right? It's kind of almost, it's almost a mystery in a way. There's no way for you to go in and say, how does it know that? Kind of like your brain, like we haven't really figured out our brains either.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I would call it mystery, but there's a lot of things that happen by itself. You basically set the stage and then let things happen the way you want it, and then you tweak
Yeah.
it, like you constantly tweak it. There's another good meme, if you just change random things in your code, then you're a bad developer but a good machine learning engineer. So that's pretty much it. So you
Yeah.
input the weights and parameters and so forth to end up where we want to go, and then you build your own architectures. That's also pretty. That's actually the way to go. So you cannot just take everything and just use it off the shelf. Then probably what we were doing wasn't that important. People think actually there's a very bad marketing from some of the competitors. They say oh, you just upload the documents or you tag them and okay, it's gonna be done. I'm like, if that is the job, then you probably wouldn't exist, and everybody will be able to just upload the documents. This is invoices with
Right.
all of it. And yeah, I mean that's not that easy. Obviously, there's a lot of pre-processing. There's a lot of architecture layers and layers and layers, and different
Mm.
things happening there, and then. There's also a lot of post-processing happening that should take the data to make it usable for the the next system that's going to take it over. Um,
Yeah.
in essence, though, we do use machine learning for things that we cannot program in a realistic time frame. So if you want to, if you want to
Right.
define a dog as a programmer, it's going to take a while. Um, but as a machine learning, you actually get a lot of things for free, for out of the box, because of how those neurons, like the virtual neurons, operate. And that's very similar to us, too, I think.
Well, it's really about, like we can look at some, like a human, what they can, like when you have this machine learning or AI, like learning how to play games and stuff, they can, like they can run a game like millions of times or a billion times. It would take us to, it'll take us, all year to play the game like 365 times once a day, but they can do that in like a millisecond. And so that's how it's learning. It's just that these big data sets that just which is fascinating. One of the things, too, that I find fascinating, this is something that I don't know if you're an Elon Musk fan or not. Some people are, some people aren't. But from a tech perspective, like with his cars, Tesla, right? One of the things I always, and I don't know why this really just jumped out at me, was, now I don't own a Tesla or anything, but this is what I hear, is that there's like this feedback loop where there's all these cars out there experiencing the world, and it's automatically on the fly updating the software as people are all these thousands of cars are out there driving. So their data is just this feedback loop of improving on its own. Which I find is also fascinating, maybe a little scary because there's little. I don't know how much human interaction is. Like maybe we shouldn't be learning so quickly. Let's make sure we're learning the right things.
Yeah, I mean the fundamental theory behind that the machine learning will take over human intellect is I think undisputable. We should just calm down and not think of so much highly of ourselves. There will be machines that are doing better than us. There are machines that are doing that better than us. There are cranes, also is doing a better job than lifting. So it's not just your computers.
Yeah.
But in this world, as in innovation happens where there's a need. Whether that need is you want to make money, you want to defend your country, or you want to find law, whatever it is that's driving you. That's where you start becoming creative. We are great problem solvers as humans. Machines not so much yet,
Yeah.
but I think we're gonna get there. So too. So they're really good in redoing things that we teach them, obviously, right? Um, and they have like you said, every Tesla has I don't know how many cameras, 8 cameras. that's like 800,000 eyes looking at the situation. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't have any
Yeah.
ulterior motive. Uh, so that's a very different competition that we are not.
Not yet, anyway.
One way or the other, I think this is the future. I think we should not ask if or it's going to be when problem and it's going to be how problem, and we
Yep.
control those purposes still. I think this is should be more discussed in the politics. How what kind of role are we going to live in 30 years? It's definitely not going to be the same thing. And the speed of innovation is it's an exponential. It goes like this. So maybe.
Yeah.
I watched Neil deGrasse a couple of days ago. He was saying
Tyson. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like if you ask someone in 1900s what are the biggest problems in the world, what could be the end of the civilization, they were maybe a war, famine, or tuberculosis. Now we don't have those problems anymore. It's famine and tuberculosis.
Right.
On a large scale, but now we have very different problems. We are thinking about nuclear war, or asteroids, or global pandemics, which now are easier to spread out because of the transportation is now easy. And he's saying what we're gonna have in 100 years as problems. So we don't even know today that we might have them as problems. So.
True.
New problems are coming. They're coming really fast, and we need to look into those things. But I don't think anything will stop the evolution, especially in machine learning and AI. I think this is ultimately our dream, to create a copy of ourselves. That's inevitable unless nukes starts falling on us and we go backwards. But other than that, it's just gonna happen.
Yeah, it's just this exponential growth now. It's just going and going and going. There's no stopping it. Even on the VR side of things too. I mean, I think the next 10, 20, 30 years is going to be incredible. We're going to be living in a very different world, and it's going to get the changes in the world are just going to happen faster and faster. But I mean, it's got to be exciting for you too, though, to be able to leverage these technologies, because as we were just talking about, it's all about data and how fast you can learn. And every time every time you're loading in a new document, it's learning something else, or it has errors and it fixes it, figures it out. And in next year, 3 years, 5 years, your document, processing will be probably near perfect at that stage. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
By the time last year, around this time around, our AI learned to process the document it has never seen before. That was a groundbreaking thing in this industry. We are only the one who can actually still do that. So before that, it was basically there was an AI for invoices, and it wasn't every invoice. It was just US invoices, and this company that become, by the way, unicorn just by that. Or there's a driver license AI, and they only do that one. But if you give them a document that they never seen before, they're like, oh my God, what am I doing here? So that has changed with us. And by next year, this time around, it's going to be even more different. And the other thing is excuse me. The other thing is, you are a great podcast host and web developer. It took you how long to get here, right? Now I feel comfortable with software engineering. It took me 40 years to get there. Well, maybe another 20 years I'm going to retire. And all those things, at the height of my knowledge, I have to stop doing it. And other people, they have to go through exact thing. Imagine how many doctors we have. They have all to learn exact same anatomy and other things, pharmacology and whatever. And it almost half of their life is spent on that. So it's a very inefficient way to learn something. I think or to create talent, if you like, to raise a human. With machines, obviously, we can scale this up. We can share the learnings. You can, avoid the mistakes much more easier.
Yeah.
Of our nature, we are biological things, and then we have needs that are beyond doing work.
Right.
With machines, we don't have that problem either. So they can be fully focused on doing this, and that's why it's gonna go much faster. Like I said, if I fix one invoice problem for one company, then the rest of them they get this for free almost, right?
I realize we'll end it here, but I realized as you were telling me, it just dawned on me, like, you talk about narrow AI and general AI, like you're basically creating the general AI for documents, right? That can just take any document and figure it out. Just kind of, because you're talking about narrow would be the just being able to do licenses or just be able to do invoices, but you're doing kind of a general for just widening that.
Yeah, I mean that's what our thinking, because if you hire someone for your invoices and now you need receipts, you wouldn't hire another person. You'll expect them to learn this and do it. If they don't, I mean, you will maybe prefer someone who has done this before, and that's what we are coming. So we pre-train the models, we make them ready for over 800 document types right now. If you want to take it, just day zero, you can automate it. You don't even need programming. There's no code solutions in our system. If you use existing products everywhere from Dropbox, where you upload your photos, but then you can automatically convert them into rows into Google Sheets with just tick, nice. A few clicks. You don't need any programming or any real technical expertise in machine learning, etc. So we basically make every developer a machine learning engineer, and we didn't stop there. And with our no-code AI, we made every office worker basically a magician, and it comes
very, very cool. All right. Well, so if somebody wanted to reach out to you or find you, obviously your website's base64.ai. Are you anywhere else on the interwebs? Anywhere? Are you on LinkedIn or anywhere else people can reach out to you?
If they search me by name, I'm on there. I'm more than happy to have this kind of also conversations with anyone I found in the world. Where AI is going is going to be one of the most important things to talk about, and it's very exciting to discuss people's ideas.
Well, I can tell that from you, because it's like you were talking about earlier, where you could have just retired, but this is something you're just super passionate about. You love doing, and you probably do it for as long as you can, as long as your brain allows you, until the AI takes over. But all right. Well, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Builders Crew. Until next time, take care. That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. If you want to comment on this episode's page, provide me with requests on topics for future episodes, or inquire about being a guest, please find your way to thebuilders.fm. You can contact me there or add a comment under these show notes. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you are interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.